with it. So yeah,
Thanks.
your work is fantastic. And
Thank you.
I read something on your website today that I was just like, oh, that just got me in all the feels. When you said, Mosaic for me is a meditation, a spiritual reflection. I'm writing a story, completing a puzzle with unknown endings. Oh, I
Yes.
loved it.
Yes.
I love
Thank
that.
you.
So tell me more about that.
So actually, one of the questions you sent me was the purpose of creating, and that's a big purpose of it for me because it is my meditation and it helps me ground myself. I'm not really good with words and expressing myself in that way, so art has really become that for me.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So were you young when you got into it, or did it just kind of evolve?
I've always created,
Mm.
but I would say probably in my late teens, early 20s, I was going through some hard times, and that's when I really stepped back into art and where it helped me in those ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when
Wow.
I moved to Colorado, I actually started selling art, and that's kind of when it snowballed.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Your pieces seem to sell out really quickly, so you must be
Yeah.
doing well.
Enough.
Yeah.
As long as I'm paying my bills and feeding myself, I'm happy. So,
That's the thing. I think as well, like you're obviously younger than me, but I think as you get older, you kind of you get to a point where you realize that all the stuff you were working towards, you're like, I actually don't need as much anymore. As long as I
mhm.
can keep myself fed and clothed and have a
Yep.
roof over my head, that's,
Exactly.
everything starts to feel like just extra stuff that we don't really need. I recently
Yep.
came across an amazing musician. Have you heard of Ren?
I think
REN.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's doing amazing things with his art now. And he's, he really inspires me because he's just like, it's not about the money. He isn't with a record label, he's just
Mhm.
done it all by himself. And it's just,
Yep.
yeah, it's just quite incredible what people can do when they actually focus on their passions,
Yep.
like you are. Um, so who in your life gave you permission to create, and made it feel safe for you to create through your art, if they did?
Definitely my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've always like when we first met, we really communicated through art in a way, like expressed ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, and whenever I do create, he's always there giving input and communicating with me about it. He's always giving me
Nice.
ideas. And he was also the person that really pushed me to leave my desk job and do it full time. He's like,
Oh,
you need
wow.
to put all of your hours into your own work
Mm.
and you'll really go somewhere. So
Yeah.
he's a huge influence.
Oh, nice. Nice. What is he?
Yeah.
Is he an artist as well, or?
He's not.
Okay.
He's really not, but he'll do art with me, he enjoys it. But
Oh,
he
wow.
owns a pub
Oh,
locally.
yes, that's
Yeah.
right. The pickle one. The
Yes.
pickle.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like the best logo possible because,
Yeah.
I have like a
Perfect.
huge list of, different logos to make and jokes to make and all sorts of things. So,
I love it. I love
yeah.
it.
But
So you've got,
I do the
go on.
social media and the website
Yeah.
stuff and all the online. I'm kind of working in the background for the pub as well.
Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
both supporting each other, which is really
Yes,
lovely.
for
Yeah.
sure.
It's lovely when you've got someone in your corner who just can be a real champion for you and, just support. I mean, I'm a writer,
Mhm.
and often I'll be sitting thinking about stuff and my husband's like, just go write and do what you
Yep.
need to do. And do you need anything? Do you need a hot cup of tea? Do you need a hot
Oh,
water
I
bottle?
love
Do you need,
it.
so it's really, really supportive.
Yeah.
So when was your, first memory of creative expression?
Um, First grade, probably. I had this really neat teacher. I still remember her. Her name was Miss Kaysen, and
Oh,
the whole class we did this huge mural. And
mm-hmm.
there were probably, I don't know, 25, 30 kids, and it was an underwater mural.
Oh,
And I
wow.
decided to do the killer whale, and I painted it, and I was like, "Man, that's actually really good." So that's probably my first memory.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
So you had people at school who were kind of helping you express as well. So yeah, because
Yeah, for
a
sure.
lot of art teachers, unless you're really good, they're like, don't bother, you know.
Yep.
Or I've heard that story so many times when someone
Oh,
wasn't massively creative and they try something and someone just like no. And
that
it's
sucks.
funny. It's funny because Kim, our co-founder, she always, I mean, she's been sculpting now for over 30 years. And
Mm-hmm.
she says the first experience that most people have of sculpture is when you put something in a kiln, you make it out of clay,
Mm-hmm.
and you put it into the kiln, and then it
Yep.
blows up. And
Ah, yeah.
most people's dreams of sculpting just end there. They're like, I put all that work into it and it just blew up. Well, why would I do that again? You know? And that's
Mm-hmm.
why she loves that her husband created this product, because she's like, well, now I can do whatever, and there's no worry about it, you know, ever doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So how did it become something you were very passionate about from that first, you know, oh, maybe I've got something here, maybe I'm good at this. How was that nurtured, or how did that become something that became your life?
There was a big lull in my life through art, but I always
Mm,
enjoyed it and loved it. But like I said, when I was like late teens, early 20s is really when I got back into it and it helped me get through a lot of hard times.
mm.
So once I realized that and how much it was helping me, that's probably when I truly became passionate about creating.
Yeah. And we've kind of covered the like the whole purpose of creation thing, but is there anything you want to add to that purpose of like where you find that purpose? Is it just when you get into the studio and start doing things, or do you have crazy dreams? Or like for me, it's I always
Oh,
like I
yeah.
thought up most of these questions after a meditation because they
Mhm.
just
I know,
kind of
I loved your
popped in.
questions. That was so
Yeah,
great.
they just
No.
pop in, and I was like, oh, where's my booklet? I need to write these down. They just because they'll go away. They go away so quickly. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep, that's like
Um,
dreams too, right? I have crazy dreams all the time, and I'm like, I should really start a dream journal. That'd give
yes,
me some inspiration. But really,
absolutely.
purpose for me also is like sharing and connecting art.
Hmm.
Sharing and connecting with people. Met
Yeah.
so many amazing people through my art. Um, and I feel like that inspiration really flows to people who really connect with my art. And so many times people are like, "Oh, I can't do that. I could never do that." I'm like, "Yes, you can. Just get started. Just play with
Yeah.
it. It doesn't have to be good art. It makes you feel good."
Yeah, and it's actually good if you like. I always think the better my writing gets is the more that I f up writing. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because you're like, oh
Yeah.
no, that didn't work, and when you read it
Mhm.
back to yourself, you're like, no, and then a few years later, you've come on so much, and then you look back at your old stuff and you go, oh God, but you had to
I
start somewhere,
know.
right? You have to start
Yes.
somewhere. You make a lot
Yes.
of ugly art before you make something beautiful.
And it's important creating bad art. Like I still create bad art.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
create good art unless you make bad. So, I totally get that.
I'm so glad you've touched on that, because so many people still email us and say, "Oh, I've had this bag sitting here for, 2 months, and I've not opened it yet because I'm so frightened of not getting it right." And I'm like, "Just
Yep.
rip it open and do something really small, and just
Yep.
you'll see how easy it is." And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, but it's so precious and I don't want to ruin it." And I'm like, "Well, that's what the trial bag's for."
Mhm.
Just mess up, just make stupid things and try out different
I
textures,
know.
and yeah, it's really cool. So,
I have so many
um
things sitting around that I've made with Paltia that I'm like, "Man, this is really bad," but I had fun making it?
But see, it's probably bad to you, but if someone else looked at it, because Kim is like that, she'll make something and she'll say, "I'm really embarrassed to show you this," and she'll show me the most beautiful thing, and I'm like, "That's really lovely," and she'll be, "Oh God, no, 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 no! It needs to be, finessed. I need to do this a million times before I get it right, so I can teach everybody else." And I'm like, "But it looks really good the way
I know, she's
the
so
way it is."
talented.
she she's crazy talented, but she still has to, go through that process of like, "Oh no, that was
Mhm.
really bad. I'm not going to put that out anywhere." We hope you're enjoying these talks and chats centered around the inner life of an artist. These are the kind of interviews and discussions we'll be having inside our Artful Awareness portal. You can check out that in the link below. If you want to ignite, elevate, or explode your creativity, then we'd love to see you there. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments about today's interview, then pop them in the comments below and we'll get back to you. Enjoy the rest of the interview. So how do you remain connected to your art on a daily or weekly basis? Like you mentioned that you had a lull from it and
Mhm.
then you got back into it. So what keeps you tethered to it? Is it simply because you love creating, or is it because people are
Mhm.
waiting on a sculpture to be made, or
Both. Both. A lot of days I'd never feel disconnected,
Hmm.
because my studio's in my home and I
Yeah.
don't really ever allow myself to be bored because I have so much crap to make things with. So
Yeah.
I'll just come down here, and even if I'm not working on something that is going to make me money potentially, I'm
Hmm.
doing something. I
Yeah.
love art journaling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I recently joined a community called Post Crossing. Have you
Ooh.
heard of it? There's
No.
like 800,000 members all over the world. And
Wow.
it's basically sharing postcards.
Oh.
Um, and so I do little mixed media postcards, like I make them all. So that's
Mm-hmm.
really fun for me.
Oh, cool.
Um, so yeah, never really disconnected just because I enjoy doing so many different things.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
always there's always something to be making.
Yep.
Yeah. Not like writer's block where you stare at a page for ages and you're just like,
Exactly.
how do I write
Yeah.
this scene? No idea.
Well, I have
um,
that same problem with the stuff that I need to make.
yeah.
My art that makes me money. I do have creator's block a lot, but that's when I
Okay.
go back to these things like mixed media and
Hmm.
dinging around the studio.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've kind of answered the next question. How do you remain disciplined? Because you just got so much
Ah,
stuff to make.
yeah, discipline's really hard for me though when it comes to art
Is it?
that I need to make to sell. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Okay.
very difficult. I typically, like, when I'm feeling the right energy to put into these pieces is when I
Hmm.
work on those specifically. And
Okay.
there's some days that I'm not feeling it, and I have to step away. I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not really a believer in pushing through because I want my
Hmm.
best energy put into these pieces that people are buying,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
And
Um,
I think as well, like when you we can sit and try and fix a problem, but after a while our frontal lobe just maxes out completely and we actually need to go
mhm,
away and take a rest or do a meditation, or like I've
yep,
just recently got into yoga nidra, and doing
mhm,
one of those when you're trying to create, like even if we're creating ads or content or something, it's like going away from sitting bashing your head at a computer and actually taking a step back
mhm,
ends up lighting up the things that were kind of dulled
exactly.
before. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Do you meditate?
I don't,
Yeah.
but honestly, like I say, art is kind of a meditation for me, and
Yeah.
especially when I'm doing mosaic. A
Mm.
lot of my early art was like it was mixed media, but I did a lot of doodling and kind of I can't think of the word, but meditative basically, and
Yeah.
I just the art flows. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how mosaic is for me. A lot of times I'm not planning out designs. I don't have a preordained idea.
Mhm.
It's just
You're in that
flowing
flow
out and
state. Yeah.
growing. Flow state, yes.
Nice. Yeah.
Totally.
I love that flow state. I love when hours
Mhm.
pass and I look up and I'm like, "Ooh, I haven't had anything to drink. I've not eaten in
I
hours
know.
and I need the toilet."
I know.
You're like, "Oh, I totally forgot life was happening around me." And you're just like
I
in
love
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a great feeling actually. And that's when you know, I
Mhm.
think, that you've tapped into a real well source of passion, because you
Mhm.
can't stop. It's just something that
Yep.
you just have to keep doing.
Mhm.
And I guess that's why when you're doing something for a client, do you get briefs, or do you kind of just you're allowed to do whatever you want with it, or do they want a specific?
Both.
Is that why it's harder to discipline yourself?
Yes, yes, it's
Yeah.
very hard to discipline myself with custom projects, especially
Hmm.
people who want specific imagery or designs. I
Right.
actually have
Yeah.
a custom that I've been procrastinating on starting for over a month now because
Oh.
I'm just not feeling it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
luckily, this customer was like, "Take your time. I don't want this piece in any amount of time." work
Oh,
on it
okay.
when you feel good about it. So I'm
Oh,
taking
that's
him for
nice.
his word.
Yeah, yeah, you just have to wait for that. Might be Christmas,
Yeah,
might be next year.
exactly.
Who knows what, but when you get it, you'll love it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just trust me.
Trust me, I know what I'm doing. I'm the artist here.
Yeah.
Do you have any rituals around making art? Like, I always have to have a certain playlist when I'm doing like when I was writing a book set in Australia, and I used to live in Australia, and I really missed the bird sounds there.
Mhm.
That you just don't get that same
Yep.
sound here, and I had to listen to this whole Australian album of just like
Aw,
Australian bird noises just so I could feel like I was back there. It was really
I love
strange.
that.
Is there anything that you do like that that you can kind of go, oh, when I listen to this piece of music, it really jazzes me to get into the studio,
Mhm.
or when I bake this cookie, it really, is there something that you do that connects you and makes you just want to, get in there and make art?
Yeah, I really like, lo-fi,
Hmm.
instrumental lo-fi music. It's
Nice.
kinda just,
Yeah.
like, groovy and easy. I honestly work in silence a lot. I
Do
love
you?
silence, yes.
Oh,
I
nice.
love to have the windows open, like you said, bird sounds. I miss the North Carolina bird sounds because we
I
don't have as
bet.
many
Yeah.
here. But
Oh,
the outside, the sound of nature and the outside and a little bit of air coming in is great.
yeah.
Um,
Very therapeutic. Hmm.
yes, and a lot of time I really like burning incense, particularly pinyon incense. Pinyon is
Ooh.
a tree out here that's everywhere, and it smells
Oh, nice.
absolutely amazing when you burn the
Mm.
wood. Um,
Oh, I love Palo
yeah,
Santo. That's one of my
yes,
favorites. The smell of
yes,
that
me
just
too.
instantly calms me down. Yeah,
Exactly, yeah, and
nice.
pinion's kinda like that for me too, because a
Oh,
lot
okay.
of these animals that I work on are from areas where pinions are prolific, and I
Yeah,
kind of feel like it helps me connect to them and their spirit,
yeah, yeah.
a
That
little
makes a lot
better
of sense.
too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. So letting nature kind of become a ritual in itself, just letting it
For
in, and
sure.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
And when it comes to legacies, what
Mm.
is it that you wish to leave behind when you are gone?
Honestly, I don't really care about legacy.
Okay, cool.
It's just
Some
I'm
people
having
don't.
fun for myself, and that's
Mm,
enough for me right now. Um,
excellent.
any kind of thing that semi relates to legacy, I'd just say the fact that I want everybody to be creative and believe they're creative. Because everybody is
Nice.
creative. It might not be art, it might not be film, music, dance, your typical you think
Yeah,
of being creative, but it's like what you wear, it's how you speak, it's the direction you go on your walk today. Like,
nice.
people just automatically say, "Oh, I'm not creative, I can't do anything," and I want people to believe that
Yeah,
and feel
yeah.
good about their creativity, whether, what what that creativity is might not look like somebody else's.
Mm. And it's
Mhm.
funny because all you have to do is like I spent some time the other day with my 5-year-old great nephew,
Mhm.
and all you have to do when you question whether everyone is creative is spend some time with a kid, because you're
Yeah.
naturally that way.
Yep.
You're so creative. You make everything into something. Everything
Exactly.
becomes this huge play. So
If
it's
only we
it's
could go back to that space in our
I
minds, you
know.
know?
I
I
know.
wish
And
we
I
could.
I love that quote. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it's a lovely quote. And it's like, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And I
Yep,
think that a lot of
exactly.
people tend to think they can't. And I saw today there was a woman who started a YouTube channel, and it was called Why I'm Starting a YouTube Channel Age 90. And it was
Ah.
basically about her art and how she had been told she was dyslexic, and she said, I only started creating in when I was in my 70s. And she's like, and I'm
Mhm.
just showing people that I'm still doing it, and I'm in my 90s now, so if I can do
Hell
it,
yeah.
anyone can do it.
Yep.
So I thought that was lovely, because I was like, yeah, like not enough people think they are creative when actually there is something in there,
Mhm.
and you just need to nurture it.
Yep.
And I'm so glad you've made it into something that you can actually earn money from as well. That's fantastic,
Me too.
because a lot of people feel that they can't, or they're blocking themselves in some way towards that. So yeah. um
Yeah, I think it's nice because COVID actually really I watched so many people, through my
mm,
social media community decide to leave their jobs after they
Yeah.
were forced to, and a lot of them are have created businesses for themselves, and that's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people just were like, "What am I doing sitting in a box for, 8 hours or 9 hours a day,
Yep.
sometimes more?" And my old work was I did mindfulness coaching, but I also did a lot of life coaching. And
Mhm.
I get so many people into my office who were just like, "I want to do something different. I don't know where to start. Help."
Mhm.
How do I even begin to not see myself as just a corporate shill or someone
Yeah.
who's just sitting there doing something that I absolutely can't connect with on a daily basis. And then I get to go home and be myself. And
Yep.
that's why I love what we do here, because I get to connect, even though I'm not a sculptor, get to
Mhm.
connect with creativity every day. And I love that
Exactly.
because, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to do these interviews, because I really want to find out where that comes from, and help other people
Mhm.
connect to that passion and that purpose and that positivity around their art.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you're giving great answers here. And what gives you the self belief to keep creating?
Probably feedback from my work. And
Hmm.
like I said, I've met so many people through it. Like I've met a best friend through trading our art. She's a jeweler. She actually made this
Nice.
necklace.
Yeah, I was going to say you've got beautiful
Yeah.
jewelry on.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
Yeah.
lovely.
So I met her through that, and gosh, just the connections made basically, and how
Mm,
sweet people are that I meet that purchase my art, and like
nice.
going to festivals in the summer, meeting, hundreds of people in 2 days, and the feedback really helps you believe in yourself. They're like, even if they don't buy anything, it's like, oh, that your work is beautiful. Keep doing it. This is amazing. Like
Nice.
other people have really helped me with my own self belief.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that a lot of people tend to struggle with is they're like, "Oh, I've made that, but I'm not an artist and I'm not in any way creative." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, you are, and you need to
Mm-hmm.
believe it in yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
unless a million people are telling them that they're good, they don't have any self-belief. But I think
Mm-hmm.
building that up, and maybe having a few people come and connect with you and tell you that, then
Mm-hmm.
it builds up your own, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
actually, yeah, this is something I'm actually good at.
For
And you
sure.
had that in you all along, right? Because like when you were younger and you made the whale, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's there. And if you could suggest three things to anyone who's listening that is maybe struggling with that self-belief around creating, or think they can't create, what is three things that you would love to tell that person?
One of my biggest things is get an art journal. And it doesn't have to be anything special, just a book with blank white pages. And
Mm,
start it I'm sure that's intimidating to some people too, but what I love to do when I have creator's block is just paint the whole page. Start pasting some shit on there. It doesn't have to be cute. Again,
yeah.
it can be bad art, but write on it. Write over some color.
Mm,
Mosh Podge some different textured paper on, like anything you have around, old cards, old magazine clippings. It's just so fun and freeing, and a lot of times when I do that, different messages come out of it that were
mm,
inside of me that I didn't even really know or was aware of.
wow.
So that's huge for me. Um, and like I said too, post crossing, that was so fun. It's not necessarily creating art, but it's connecting with people.
Yes.
And in turn, you're trading these postcards that are beautiful and different. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then just being out in nature, I think helps too. Just take a walk in the woods, not down the
Hmm.
street, just walk through the woods, you know,
Yeah.
get
Somewhere
out
that
in
you
it.
can Yeah, somewhere that you can be alone with your own thoughts.
Yeah,
I often say that to my husband, because he's always constantly learning. Like he's one of those big, like he needs to be learning something or he thinks it's dead time.
yeah,
Um and it's so interesting because I've been forcing him to like go out and just don't take your phone, don't listen to a podcast, don't
mhm,
just be in nature. And he's been doing it a
yep,
lot more, and he's like, it does really actually help, just
mhm,
not listening to anything, just being by with yourself, with your own
yep,
thoughts. And sometimes
mhm,
he comes home with like, he's like, oh no, I need to write this down because I didn't have anywhere to write it down, or he's had an idea or something's happened. He's like, no.
You
So
should
I think
take a little journal.
yeah, I think he started taking a little tiny little moleskin journal out with him.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah,
But
I love
yeah.
that.
Aw. Well, it was lovely talking to you
I
and
love
talk to
what you guys
listeners.
are doing. I love what you're doing.
Oh,
It's so
thank you.
cool because I remember
Yeah.
you sending you guys actually reached out to me and
Yes.
was like,
Yep.
"Hey, check out our project, our product," and you sent me a little sample bag. And I'm like, "This is so cool. Like, this is a
Yeah.
company that is doing it completely different than any other." Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed connecting with y'all.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been really lovely seeing just all of your artwork, even if it's not built out. It's just like it's
Yeah.
just so cool to
Well,
see,
thank
and
you.
that's why when we decided to do Artful Awareness, we said let's just use lots of different. Kim's worked with every sculpting medium on the planet, so she's like,
I bet.
we'll do it all. Like, well, anyway, I've taken up enough of your time. I will let you go.
It
But
was
it
so
was
nice
lovely.
meeting you,
Yeah,
Yvonne.
yeah, you too. It was really nice to connect, and I'm so excited to hear about your post cross thing, and yeah, meeting
Yeah.
all these cool people. So yeah, that's
Yeah, look
nice.
into
That's
it.
really
It's
nice.
fun.
I will. I will. I will.
Cool.
That's a good question. It sort of helps me move my energy around emotionally, you know? It's sort of, I don't know, it sort of moves things through me. So sometimes if I'm very sad, um,
Hmm.
it sort of picks me up and gives me something else to focus on.